De mare.
Hello, everybody. This is Alexandra Loves, and this is SixTea. 60 minutes, a friend, and a cup of tea. We're here today with Libretto Jackson, and we're talking about Black August. Friends, let me tell you something. I did not know what Black August was, and I had a friend of a friend introduce me to Libretto Jackson here, who I'm going to introduce in just a minute. Thank you for being here with us. And I am shocked that I have never heard about Black August in my life. I'm so grateful, Libretto, that you told me about Black August. And I've been going into this sort of internet world, this spider web of just learning about these revolutionaries and what Black August is and why it's important, and actually why it's so tied into what we do here at Africa Week 2020. So for those of you tuning in, welcome. You can put your comments in the boxes wherever you are, and please ask questions because we're here to learn. Libretto knows about August. He's the one who told me about it. And I also want to say, for those of you who are old family members and new, that the reason Libretto is here is because someone else felt the vibe of what we were doing and said, hey, you should talk to my friend. And that's how we grow here at Africa Week 2020. We introduce family members and we all bring our medicine together in this platform called Africa Week 2020. So thank you for being here. Libretto, hello, how are you?
Shabbat shalom. I'm doing good. Having a little situations personally, but other than that, I'm here. It's the first of the month, and yeah, it's August, and it's time to pay homage to the ancestors who fought for our freedom and our liberties here in the so-called America.
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us, despite all that's going on. And I so-called America. Tell me about that phrase.
What so-called?
Yeah.
I say so-called because it's just a lot of different bywords that our oppressors have used to describe places, people, and things. So, it's not the indigenous name. It's named after the person who so-called discovered this great land. You know what I mean? So that's why I use so-called. So you'll hear me say so-called African American or so-called black or so-called white. So because those are just bywords and just descriptions pretty much.
I like this because it's something that is just imposed, decided by a group that we may or may not align with. I personally start putting quotes around black and white because it's just an imposed identity, and also it means very many things to different people. So thank you for that phrasing. I've not heard that phrasing before around America, and I like it. Thank you. So Libretto, we met through Rich Hunter. Rich Hunter was on a panel with us yesterday, who are the authors of our stories. If you all missed that one, please go back and check it out on the Africa Week 2020 page or in our archive on our website. And he introduced us. And when we were talking on the phone, we had a really interesting conversation. You started talking to me a little bit about Black August because I was saying, maybe we'll do something on July 31st, and then you mentioned that Black August was coming, August 1st. We happened to extend our event, and here we are. Please, can you tell us? I want to share a quote with people first, and this quote, and this is something you sent to me, Libretto. And that quote is from Sundiata Tate. And the quote is, Black August is a time to embrace the principles of unity, self-sacrifice, political education, physical training, and resistance. And I mean, I feel like it matches the time that we're in. I feel like that matches. I mean, how I'm perceiving the world and the people that I'm around, I feel like what a great time to be amplifying exactly these principles. And so I'm wondering, Libretto Jackson, how did you find Black August? How did you find this? Like, how did you get introduced to this? Because it's a total mystery to me.
Well, I was let me see, how can I put this? I had some situations in my life that led me to a 5-year stay inside of federal prison. And during my time in prison, there were some older cats who got cool with that was from the Bay Area. And one summer, I seen them working out on the yard. Now, mind you, we always work out on the yard, but this summer was different. This August was different. They were very fatigued, I could tell, and they had black armbands on their wrist, or wristbands on their wrist. And one of the brothers that's in my unit, I asked him, like, "Hey man, I seen y'all working out." This is before they called us back to the unit. And I said, "Why y'all white around the mouth? Y'all ain't drinking no water. Y'all ain't doing nothing. What's going on? Like, it's hot as hell out here." And he looked at me like, "Man, you don't know what it is right now?" I said, "No." He was like, "It's Black August." I said, "Black August?" I was like, "What's that?" And he was like, he just kind of looked at me crazy. And he was like, "Man, this is it's the time that we pay homage to our ancestors, man." He was like, "Look, man, I don't want to talk about it right now, but when we get back to the unit, I'll give you some literature on it." And so we got back to the unit, and he went to his cell, gave me this folder, which I still have to this day, and it was just a bunch of articles on Black August and stuff that's been passed around from prison to prison, because the literature on Black August inside of the prison is considered contraband to the government. Because because it deals with a lot of our revolutionary, ancestors. And so if we get caught with it, then we can face disciplinary action. So he gave me the literature and he told me, don't let the COs find this. You got to put this up. You got to hide it in legal paperwork or hide it in different stuff, books or whatever. And so I went in for count time, locked in. I read it and I just got opened up. I felt just like how you feel right now. You know what I'm saying? But this is inside of, confinement. And came out after count and I was like, "Man, I got to do this, man." I was like, it just resonated with me. Like, this is what I'm about. I want to do this. And he was like, "Nah, we're already a week in. You got to wait till next year." And so during that time, I just really studied. I watched them brothers exercise. I seen their discipline. I seen they sacrifice. And I started that next year, and that was 2012. And I've been doing it ever since. I haven't had an August since where I ate in the daytime. And it's just been real, when it hits July, I start preparing myself mentally because of the sacrifices that, we've made, our ancestors have made in every August. It's just incredible that something happens in the sky or in the sun or with the Most High God where he puts something in us to revolt against this oppression and this captivity. And that's kind of how I got introduced to it inside a federal prison.
Wow. I have read, even, before this, one of the things that I used to perform on stage and do Shakespeare, and one of the themes that has come up a couple times in that writing was how the gangs that he talks about, who is Shakespeare really, but how the gangs start, their blood boils in the summer, and the unrest goes up in the summer, and we're witnessing that right now in Portland. And you're from Portland, right? Or not? You lived here for a long time.
I've been here for a while, yeah.
Yeah. This increase in clashing happens, and so I think it's really interesting that why do you think that August was picked for Black August beyond the fact that these things are the more specific reasons, I should say. Why was August picked?
I don't really think it was picked. I think August was, it's just something that you can only have so many coincidences, you know? I mean, the first so-called African captives came here in Jamestown in August.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman went on her path to freedom in August. Nat Turner rebelled against his oppressors in August.
Yes.
You have so many events that it just painted the month of August black forever. And there's really nothing that, you know, we can say we chose. You know, it's like when I sat and I looked at all the events, I got the papers right here. I didn't grab them though, but it's so many events. I mean, the first successful slave rebellion ever in the world in Haiti was in August.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Watts riots was in August. It's just August is what it has our blood all over it. And I just think that it's definitely a necessity that we observe and you know, and definitely pay homage in August. And I don't do Black History Month. I don't celebrate none of that stuff. It's really was given to us by our oppressors, and it's the shortest month of the year, like we all know. It's my birthday month, but it's like August. Oh, okay, word. But August is really the month that should be celebrated, but they don't speak about that, and you won't hear about it because it's revolutionary. Who wants to celebrate the fact that Nat Turner murdered so many so-called Caucasians? Or who wants to celebrate the fact that, you know, the brother in Haiti, I can't think of his name at the moment, but he slaughtered so many of the French, and Haiti won that slave rebellion. You know, those aren't things that they want to teach us, you know, because that'll give us empowerment and let us know that it was more than I have a dream.
This reminds me of going through school. I never liked Black History Month. And I remember going through school, and when I was in high school, I had this teacher who was teaching African history. He's from Morocco, and he was teaching African history of revolutionaries and of dictators all over Africa. And he started the class with telling us a story about a revolutionary here, Rosa Parks. And, Viola Green is saying Toussaint Louverture. Is that who you're talking about in Haiti? Jean-Jacques Dessalines or Toussaint Louverture?
I think the first one.
Jean-Jacques,
yes. Yeah.
I don't speak French, but thank you.
The command. He was one of the slaves who led the revolution, who spearheaded the revolution.
Yes.
The French. Yeah.
Yes, because the French said, we'll leave your land, but now you owe us money because we have a loss of property and money. So we put you into debt.
Exactly.
And that now is Citibank.
Absolutely.
Okay. So these things go back so far. All of our oppressions have deep, deep roots. So, so I remember this teacher had started this class talking about a revolutionary named Rosa Parks. I did not know her as a revolutionary because in school, especially in Black History Month, they told us that she happened to be tired, that it never said anything about it being organized. And all they taught us was that she, you know, that she was tired and she had just had enough. And that was it. And then he told us the story about how it was organized. She was associated with certain organizations that were revolutionary organizations, that there was a reason why there was news journalists and everything there, because it was organized.
Absolutely.
And the seed of that story was that they took out the part in which Black people of some sort of African descent, people with melanin in their skin had organized to oppose, to create some sort of revolution. And I couldn't even, it took me years to wrap my head around that. And it made me sort of take any history that I have been taught in class, or, you know, any history, and say, maybe.
Right. Yeah, nah,
Everything I learned from then on in school, or that I felt that I knew from school, I was just like, maybe.
yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
absolutely. I mean, it goes back to how can we trust like our oppressor's education system? You
Mhm.
know, I have a real problem with that. Like, I totally believe in we should have our own schools, we should have our own hospitals, we should have our own grocery stores, we should have our own banks. That's Black power. You know what I'm saying? Not Black power as in, going out and killing white people or oppressing others. Black power in the sense of let's empower our people. And that's one of the things is education. We're not going to get our education unless we teach ourselves and we teach each other, because what they're going to give us is what they're going to give us. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And that's why I respect all of my successful people who went to school and college and got master's degrees, and not taking that away from them. But basically all you got is the approval from your oppressor that you passed their curriculum of education.
Yeah.
I have conversations with Dr. Joy DeGrew. She writes the curriculum for my job where I work at POIC. I don't know if you know who that is, but she wrote
Dr. Joy who?
DeGrew. She wrote Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. I don't know if you've ever read that book.
How do you spell her last name? Do you remember?
I have her book right over here. It's like French or something. DeGrew.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll find it.
If you Google post-traumatic slave syndrome, it'll pop up. She'll pop up. She's a worldwide activist, speaker, and she told me in one of our one-on-one conversations that she got her master's degree and she was so excited, and then she realized that that master's degree meant nothing because it got her to a point to where it only got her so far. And
Yes.
so she had to go back and get another master's degree to get through the next door. And then she went and got another master's degree to get through that next door. And she said all those were papers to get me to where I can have a place to sit and talk about our people's struggle to people who wouldn't listen to me if I didn't have all of those certifications.
Wow.
She said other than that, she really doesn't even care about that stuff. And she has like 4 master's degrees. You know what I mean? And
Wow.
that's how I kind of look at it. And I know that's how the education system is. So.
Yeah, I felt that. I definitely felt that. Like for my parents, for example, they're Creole. They're from New Orleans. From a Levee town and from New Orleans, the city. And for them, it was a big deal to be people in their family that went to college and they did really well for themselves. And for me, I'm proud of them, what they were able to do, but it never was something that worked for me. And I could feel that in my entire journey through school, even from a young age, my entire journey from school, the sort of where the accolades and the awards and the grading system, I just always naturally rejected it inside me. And this track of either debt, it seems like the track is either you're going into debt or you're going into jail or you're going into some sort of situation relationship wise where you are chained to something. It never, I went through the system, but it never, I stopped as soon as I got to that point where I had enough of my own like sovereignty over the choices in my life where, I'm done, because people want me to go back and acquire more debt to get these certificates. And I just naturally reject that. And I know a lot of people reject those systems. And I think that they would feel more supported if they knew about things like Black August and what these activists and revolutionaries were talking about. I want to pause for a minute and I want to play a video about Black August. And it's very short. That's just a little introduction to Black August. It's actually a trailer, but it's just a little introduction. And please tell me, because I'm new, please let me know. I hope this is accurate. Please let me know if I have played something that.
What did you find?
Okay. All right. Here we go. It's just about 2 minutes and 30 seconds here.
1970 was the year Jonathan Jackson was killed leading the Marin County Courthouse Rebellion, an attempt to free comrades and his elder brother, George Jackson. A few months later, George was assassinated during a so-called prison escape. In the same year, Los Angeles gangs increased dramatically. It was in this climate that a small group of young freedom fighters, former students of Fremont High School and East Los Angeles College, joined forces organized with the Black Student Union, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the Black Guard newspaper, and the Black Panther Party. These exceptional youngsters wanted to continue organizing for revolutionary Black liberation in the community where they were raised, Avalon Gardens housing projects, the Proud Projects. This is their story of resistance.
Even at a time too when the gangs were becoming prevalent in the gardens, and they really did make their presence known, but to try to bully, the younger youth that were coming to us. So with me, it was really all about education and the pride in getting them together and giving them something positive to look forward to, and not to take the road down with the gangbangers and what they were leading to. Matter of fact, we had some younger brothers or siblings of the gangbangers that were in the Jonathan Jackson educational cadre.
Juxtaposed alongside us was this group inside the projects. They were coming up as we were developing the Jonathan Jackson educational cadre, not only for revolutionary change in the world, not only for revolutionary change inside the United States, but also to defend and protect the residents of Avalon Gardens housing projects, not just from police, but from what was emerging as a counterinsurgency. These Crips and blood groups were actually groups that were originated and fostered right out of the prison system. Antithesis, the counterinsurgency to revolutionary groups that was sprouting up all over the United States.
How far are you willing to go to defend?
Blood.
Wow, I've never seen that. That is that's in my neighborhood. Them projects are right down the street from where I grew up.
Did you see all the names written on the walls and everything?
Yeah, that's right down. Those are like our allies. I'm from the Jordan Downs housing projects in Watts, and that's the Avalon Gardens, like 5-10 minutes up the way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's you got to send me that. I need to see that. That is dope.
Yeah, and it's a preview to. I gotta find
the movie.
What's that? It's a preview to something this guy made. I didn't get fully into. I'll send you the article and the video so you can kind of follow it. Yeah.
Not just the name. Is that what it's called? Okay, not just the name. Is that what it's called?
I think it's called Not Just the Name.
Okay.
And the article is Black August in LA, Month of Meaning and Resistance. I'll send it all to you right after this interview.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm as I was researching these, when we hear there is this part of white supremacism that gets imposed on Black people. I think this is one of the ways white supremacism lives within us. And that is when we hear about things like the Panthers, or we hear things about Black guerrillas, or we hear things about Black power and revolutionaries, there's a fear. Because there's a fear in that it's going to be violent, or there's a fear that it's that it will by saying Black power, or by being a Black revolutionary, or having Black revolutionary thoughts, that we will be targeted, that it's something to be afraid of within ourselves. And I think that white supremacism that's within us keeps us from understanding, from researching and educating ourselves about how Black Panthers were started. Where did our gangs come from? They were community services to keep us safe. How did they why did they turn into gangs that are now associated with drugs and violence. Like, how did all of this happen? And I think that there's this stigma that is baked into us here about knowing about stuff like Black August and these revolutionaries and understanding our prison system and how it works.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, the gangs were birthed right there, like the man was telling you, out of the movement. When you take away, you know, the meaningful, when they dismembered the Black Panther Party, it was a covert operation from J. Edgar Hoover and the CIA called COINTELPRO. That's the counterintelligence program. They were set out to dismember and destroy any type of Black revolutionaries, from Stokely to Malcolm to Martin to all of the freedom fighters. And they did. And in the place of that, you know, you got certain cliques who were still out, but with nothing to do. Now, no leadership, which is where one of the words CRIP, it comes from, Community Resources in Progress. That's the acronym of CRIP. And it used to be Cribs. You know, they used to be called the Cribs. And I heard these stories from my OGs, you know, who are like 60 in their 60s now. And
Community resources
in progress. What? In progress.
Community resources progress.
In progress.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you know, when that happened, you had the CIA, you know, with the help of Freeway Rick, flood LA in the early 80s, right after that, with 100 kilos of cocaine. And to help fund the war going on in Nicaragua. These are actual facts. You know what I mean? And that's how the drugs, to answer your question, came into play. So what did he do? He went around to all of the neighborhoods, giving them deals, giving them drugs, giving them dope on consignment. And that's how the crack epidemic started in the United States. It started in LA, and then it spread everywhere. And with that comes territory, comes money, which brings what? Violence.
Violence. And then whoever controls the story
controls the narrative. And then that's what you get on the news. And all you see is Black on Black crime. These guys are killing over colors. These guys, da, 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 da. And then once you lose a family member, then it becomes what we're having a back on forth. Now it becomes about the gang. It becomes, oh, they killed my cousin. They killed my nephew. And that's not about no money or nothing. It's about revenge. And that's what keeps going for the next 30, 40 years.
It's amazing. It's a testament to how strong it is when you plant a seed.
Right.
And one of the things that I keep coming back to, it might be a little unpopular, I know, for some of our listeners, especially since I teach spirituality, but I'm also a warrior, have many ancestors who are warriors, that we are in a psychological and spiritual war. And I am a firm believer that we do have enemies, I believe. And I believe that if we study our enemies and how they have created the systems of oppression and how they've controlled the narrative, and if we understand conceptually how they've done it, we can really make the antithesis of it using conceptually the same things: planting love, planting self-care, planting changing the narrative, giving the education that builds up, that empowers, that they've given us well, they haven't given us, but they've used a blueprint that we have access to, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's one thing that PIOC does, right?
PIOC, yes. It's our motto is improving life chances, you know, and my program that I work for, CHI, is Community Healing Initiative. So it's pretty much I mentor so-called African Americans 18 to 25 that are paroled out of prison, or involvement in the justice system and heavily gang. I'm not going to say gang impacted. They are the ones out there shooting people. So I have those people on my caseload. You know, I just lost a guy on my caseload Thursday who was killed on Deacon. broad daylight. He was one of my clients. You know, and I just try. It's more than to get a job. It's more than go to school.
Yeah.
It's more than you know, to get an education. You know what I mean? It's about building relationships. And it's
Yes.
about introducing them about who they are. You know,
Yes.
like we don't know who we are. Like I was telling you over the phone, we think we're African American. We think we're Black. And I know that we reach to the motherland because that's where our ancestors came from. You know,
Yes.
but I always, well, I'm not always, but while I was in prison, I began to think about who were we before we even got into that situation.
Yes.
What led me to where I'm at now in my nationality and my faith as well. And you know, when you're dealing with people looking who got robbed of their culture, their heritage, their language, it's all the story plays out how we see it. You know, that's how I look at it. But then I have to stop and think when because I do subscribe to the Torah and the Holy Scriptures. I say, wow, if we were put in this situation by something more powerful than the white man, if the so-called white man is ruling over us, who gave the white man power? If you research that and you find out how the Gentiles are over us, the so-called white man, because of our disobedience, then you have a different understanding of why we're in this captivity. And that has warped my shaping of the liberation and the struggle, because since 2018, I've been in this truth. And I understand now how these people got on top is because we were disobedient. And that last captivity, our ancestors came on slave ships. Yes, absolutely. And that's actually written in the Torah. It was a prophecy that was 3,000 years old that happened. And, you know, people can say what they want about it being a white man's book and this, that, and the third, but I know that that book was given to us, strictly us, and they used it against us with white power Christianity. You know what I mean? Because we weren't allowed to read as slaves. So the passages that they gave us to read were said, obey your master, submit to your master, this, that, and the third. Yes, that's what they gave us. So I understand the brothers who say, I don't subscribe to that Bible because I know that's what our oppressor used against us to keep us in bondage. They're correct. But it's because they didn't give it to us as a tool to learn or to get educated. They gave it to us and cherry picked certain passages that said, obey your master, and stuff like that, when these were actually laws within Israel, within our kingdom. You know, so I kind of came full circle. And I'm, you know, still celebrating Black August, even though I know that we're in this captivity and we're fighting for liberation because of what we did.
I thank you for introducing all of this to our Africa Week family. For those of you who are watching, please comment and let us know how you're receiving this. I think this is a really great time to play your video that I really love called Jesus Had an Afro. What do you think?
I think so. I wrote that song in prison. That's when I was just beginning my studies into our culture. And I got out 4 years later, and the song didn't have a title. The music was provided to me. I sent the music to a friend of mine. I wanted him to get on the song with me.
Yeah.
And when he heard the music, I didn't tell him no lyrics or nothing. And he hit me back and he was like, bro, this is crazy. I was like, what do you think about it? He said, it's dope. He said, I think it should be called Jesus Had an Afro. Just like that.
I love when it happens like that.
And it's just, the Most High just blessed us with that. So this is off my album, Gangsta Jazz Volume 2. It's available on all streaming platforms and for download.
I just realized that I did not introduce you properly. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Everybody, this is Libretto Jackson. He's a lyricist. He's a musician and a lyricist and a producer. And I'm so sorry that I didn't say this before. I will continue to post his links if you want to find him. And we'll ask him again how to find him at the end of this. But friends, please, this is Libretto Jackson is the part of the material of a musicianship here in Portland, Oregon, and now back in LA, in your area in LA. So I'm so sorry for that.
Oh, no worries, beloved. I give all praises to the Most High. So, I just thank him for giving me the talent to create,
Yes. Thank you for being so gracious. All right, here we go.
My purple shades on, I'm a peek into the future, to the heavens beyond. Who instructs the dawn, orders the sun and the position of the moon, that navigates the infant's exit from the womb. I arrive feet first, microphone in hand, here to return these lost souls to the promised land. Strands of DNA found in Egyptian clay, it's evidence that links Malcolm X to MLK. Baby boom echo, conceived over blue notes, which explains my stroke and my water so soaked. Master chemist spinning gold from a weave. What I achieve, you cats can never retrieve, so dream on. In Babylon, my paragon is echelon, supreme king sworn, killing swine from the mind, infectious disease. Jesus had an afro, I believe. Jesus had an afro. Yeah, I really think so. Jesus had an afro. You know they don't want you to know. Jesus had an afro. And that's a fact though. Jesus had an afro. Yeah, I'm quite sure though. Jesus had an afro. Man, I really think so. Jesus had an afro. And that's a fact though. Jesus had an afro. I'm really trying to tell you, bro. Jesus had an afro. Black man for sure. Baptized in the river now, Nubian child. Crossed the Sudan over miles of sand. Original man from the motherland, so far from home. Lost in the world unknown. Descendants of the throne, lost tribe of Shabazz. Architects in science and math, astronomy and art. Nubian sundown, oldest bones was found. Garden of Eden in Ethiopia was the start. The Ghana, the Mali, the Senghai, kings and queens out the Congo, Burkina Faso, Puerto Novo, the Cairo, Egyptian gods that school Greeks that fled back to Greece. Each one, teach one, to the rhythm of the drum. You speak back to that blood is in you. Watered down after years of evolution, developing in your skin is where the proof begins. Jesus had an afro. Yeah, I really think so. Jesus had an afro. You know they don't want you to know. Jesus had an afro. And that's a fact though. Jesus had an afro. Yeah, I'm quite sure though. Jesus had an afro. Man, I really think so. Jesus had an afro. And that's a fact though. Jesus had an afro. I'm really trying to tell you, bro. Jesus had an afro. Black man for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
you're back.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my baby right there. Yeah, and that's featuring the female singer on that track, she was actually in my SCI class. Her name is Chelsea Deloney. She's a very dope vocalist. I don't even think she sings anymore. But yeah, she when I told her the concept, she was like, "Oh man, yes, I want to do that. Let me sing that, please." And that's her son that she's pushing in the stroller, and yeah, that's one of my dopest videos, I think.
Yeah, I was really moved by this because, you know, I grew up in a Catholic household and I rejected Christianity from a very young age. And one of my very earlier memories was everything is white, everyone is white, and I didn't understand. I couldn't quite understand it, and I felt like I had to. As soon as I looked beyond face value, things just fell apart in almost everything in that religion. It has helped, you know, my parents in their life, but for me, I just was born rejecting it. And so one of the conversations that I have with my mom is I mean, why don't you have a Black Jesus in the house? Just wondering, you know, I'm just like sort of like try to open that up a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I do want to say though, something that's so important about what you've been sharing with us is that people right now are looking. They're looking to find out who they are, and there's for some people, obviously there's fear wrapped around that, but a lot of people just don't even know where to start. And you know, we do live in you know, so-called America that gives us these that wants to constantly feed us who we are, and sees our history and then tell us more about who we are supposed to be. And I really appreciate you bringing I have feline, sorry. I really appreciate you bringing what you've learned for yourself. I really appreciate you bringing this wisdom, because there are people listening and will listen to this that have somewhere to start now to learn.
Right. No doubt. Yeah, it's been a you know, like I grew up in the church, and my father was an AME minister. My mother was an evangelist. God bless both of their souls. Yeah, they met marching in the civil rights movement. I never really thought about, you know, our nationality like that until, you know, you're confined in a box for most of your day and you have nothing but you and your thoughts and another man and a toilet. And you know, I just was wondering, like, you know, how do we get here? And, you know, I know we're not Black. I know you can't travel to the nation of Black. You know, we can't be two continents, you know, and I started my research, you know, before the transatlantic slave trade, and, you know, talking to a lot of my African brothers and sisters who are indigenous from Africa. And a lot of them, some of them would tell me the truth. You know, they said, hey, man, you guys were captives. You guys are not you guys fled to Africa. Your ancestors fled after 70 AD, after the Romans conquered Israel. You guys are the original Black Hebrew Jews. We sold you to the white man. They know this. We don't know this. And a lot of our people who didn't get caught up are still there in the Ivory Coast with the Torah, keeping the commandments, keeping the Shabbat, living the life. Like, this is not a conspiracy, as they told Nick Cannon, Deshaun Jackson. You know, Nick Cannon probably was not in the faith, but he was waking up and he had that knowledge. And just because he said he was a Black Hebrew, they shut him down. Because why? Because now you're saying, wait a minute, you're saying you're the chosen people of the Most High God. You're a nigger, you're Black, you're an African American. You're not going to say you're this. You know what I'm saying? They will give us every other word but saying that. So, and as you see, and if you look at the prophecies that the prophets wrote, they said in the last days that Israel is going to start waking up about who they are. And that's not to say that all of us are Israel is white or black. No, a lot of our people come from Shem, which is why it's hard to be anti-Semitic if you're black. We come from Shem. The Arabs come from Shem. White people come from Shem as well. So-called white people come from Shem as well. But there's only one line that comes from Jacob. If you know the Bible, you know Jacob was the chosen. His name was changed to Israel. That's us. And if you look at the curses of Deuteronomy 28, it fits our people to a T. We were the only people who was cursed in the city and cursed in the field. It specifically says you will be cursed in the field. Our ancestors were in the field for 300 years. Mm-hmm. You know, no other people. Besides, maybe I could think of the Chinese who were working here building the railroads. But that's not even considered a field, you know. But it's just, it led me to understand when I put the history with the prophecies, I said, wow, that's us. That's why we don't know who we are, because the prophecy says you're going to lose your culture. You're going to lose it says that in Deuteronomy. We're going to lose that. And another nation will rule over us. It says that, sis.
And all of that, you got to this from starting to learn about Black August.
That started in August 2018, sitting in my living room right now, in the couch right in front of me, you can't see, starving, waiting for the sun to come down one day. And I'm watching YouTube and a video just popped up and I was just searching and it said, the brother popped up and he said, I bet you're wondering who you are, huh? That was the first thing he said.
That marketing is truth.
Oh my God, right? I was like, yo. I started watching the whole thing and he broke it down and I said, wow. And then I called my partner who was telling me this years ago, back in 2008.
Yeah.
And I told him, right? And he was like, man, I've been told you that. He was like, you wasn't trying to hear that, Libretto. You was too busy in the street and doing all of this. And he was right. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, bro, you're right. And he gave me some stuff to read, gave me some scriptures. And I never read the Bible like that. Like I thought like every other black dude, it's a white man's book. I'm not reading that.
I mean, in my community, they call it a book of spells.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So, but when I looked at it as a history book, like as far as finding historical proofs and stuff, I looked at it differently. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I was like, whoa, okay. And started putting it together as all of those prophets were actually Hebrews. They were black Hebrews. Everybody in the Bible is black. White people are posting now since George Floyd. I seen one post the other day said, white lady posted, how do you racist white people feel just to know that there are no white people in the Bible?
I saw that post.
Yeah, white lady posted that. I was like, wow, like they know, you know. So, you know, our culture is we're one of the only people on the planet with two nationalities of African and American. And that right there should be enough for you to say, damn, who are we? Because I can't go anywhere.
I think this is part of the beauty of what's happening right now. I think we're in a time where you can't ignore it. I think we're in a time, Yemayá was saying earlier today, we're in a time of transparency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You cannot look away. And it's those who are digging in and are trying so hard to look away, it becomes obvious to everyone and more obvious to everyone else. Mm-hmm. And you know, this is, as somebody who's been on my own journey, revolutionary journey of finding out who I really am, that took me all the way to Africa. It just this time last year, it's interesting because I got a lot of things answered, but it opened up so many more questions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the layers of what's going on for the people who have melanin in our skin on this side of the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like a mountain. Mm-hmm. When I think about like how do we get people interested in finding out the story? You know,
that's the struggle, you know, because a lot of us are we're complacent with being called Black and African American and you know Negroes, but you know, I think that like my clients, I just try to introduce them to the history, like as far as, because you can't really come at brothers with a Bible, because that's like the first thing they're going to do is put their guard up. So I try to come at them with historical proofs, like the pyramids, right? We'll bring up the pyramids, and I'll say, hey, who do you think built those pyramids over there? And they'll say, oh, the Africans built the pyramids, the Egyptians. And I say, you're absolutely incorrect, brother. I said, those were Black Hebrews who built those pyramids. And they say, what? And I say, yeah, go Google pyramids back in all the hieroglyphics, and you'll see the Egyptians, the Hamites, or from the seed of Ham, ruling over the other dark nation. And then I start from there, and they see that, and that's nothing out the Bible. And then I'll take that, and then I'll say, now you can also find this in Exodus. I say, go look in the book of Exodus, and you'll see where there was a nation called Israel who were being enslaved in Egypt. And then they put the two together, and now I have a gateway in to let them know that, look, just because we share the same melanin, beloved, we are not the same people.
Yeah.
We're two different people. And that's and you can see this every day. If you go in our community now and look at the Ethiopian, you look at the Nigerian, you look at the other African brothers and sisters here, you don't see them getting gunned down in the street. You don't see them getting harassed by the cops. You don't see them in the same place as the so-called Negro who's been here for over 400 years. They come here and they excel. They have businesses, they have shops, they own houses. They're doing very well for themselves, a lot of the brothers that I see. But you look at the so-called Black man, and it's a totally different thing. And that's what I tell people, that's why I don't subscribe to the colored people thing. Because I know East Indians who are darker than me. You know what I'm saying? They get treated totally different than us.
Yeah.
It's a nationality thing. It's not a colored situation. And so once we take our lens off and look at it through that lens, sis, you'll start seeing the difference. You know what I'm saying? You can't just blanket us and say we're African. We're not. Like, far as being from there, I can't go to no tribe nowhere in Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, my home right now for me is in Watts, California. You know what I'm saying? Now, I definitely subscribe to the fact that, yes, my ancestors were taken off the shores of Africa. Absolutely. But I know that they were fled there from persecution.
Yeah.
And the people who were indigenous, not real quick, but the people who were indigenous there at that time, when the white man came on them ships and started having guns and trading for this, that, they knew who to go. They didn't give their own. Yes, some Africans who did get caught up in that. I'm pretty sure of that. Yes, there were millions and millions of them, but the 85 to 90% were this fleeing from Israel from persecution.
Wow. I mean, I wish we were not at time.
We are. That went fast.
Listen. These kinds of conversations, because we have people who listen from all over the world, including the continent, the Caribbean, South America, Central America, Europe, and United States. These are the types of things that we need to be talking about, because what we're doing at Africa Week is we're trying to find a way to be family for the advancement of our people. To us, when we're talking about it, we're talking about people of African descent. What you're bringing into the conversation is, what does that really mean? And yet still, it's important for us who are marked by this world, that have melanin in our skin. It's still important for us to find a way to unite and tolerate each other so that we can end this systematic racism, oppression, so that we can figure out who we really are, so that we can rise up.
That's right.
Have dignity and respect.
That's right.
So these conversations have to happen. They're not going to be ignored. And I'm really glad that you brought this in. And all of this was inspired by our original conversation by Black August. I want to hear from everybody out there if you're watching the replay. Thank you, Libretto, for being here. I hope that we can continue the conversation. And that also, I want to talk to you more about PIOC, because one of the things that Dima and I, as the organizers of Africa Week 2020, talked about that we want to bring to our big September event is more conversation about our prison systems, more conversation about how this happens, what resources we have, and open people's minds to being a part of it. One of the things that George Jackson was saying is that we have to create our own systems and be the example.
That's right.
Of how we need to be treated. And
That's
so
right.
if we're going to do that, we need to all start our awareness and understanding about this, that, you know, we saw it in this documentary that everybody's seen now, 13th.
Right.
Okay, now that we know, like, what are we going to do about it? How can we amplify those who are doing something about it? You are one of those people. So
all praises.
As far as I'm concerned, this is just the beginning of our conversations.
Oh, yeah.
You're Africa Week 2020 family now. We won't leave you alone.
Thank you. Gratitude.
I hope that you, Libretto, as you're going through your day, and everybody who's watching, tune into the rest of the day at Africa Week 2020 page, because there's more coming. There's an anti-Blackness panel coming up. There's a revival of ancient languages panel coming up. There's a Hoboba van thing coming up. So anyway, please tune in. Thank you for being with us. And where again can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on my Instagram is at Libretto Slum Funk. You can just Google Libretto Hip Hop, Libretto, and yeah, all the streaming platforms, Libretto, Libretto. I have my own website, which is slumfunk.com, slumfunk.com.
Yes.
So yeah, and I'm
all
around.
Right. I got it.
Thank you.
So much, Libretto.
Absolutely.
Bye, everybody.